Shanghai? Shanghai is one of the 4 direct-administered municipalities of the People's Republic of China. The city is located on the southern estuary of the Yangtze River, with the Huangpu River flowing through it. With a population of 24.89 million as of 2021, Shanghai is the most populous urban area in China and the most populous city proper in the world. It is the only city in East Asia with a GDP greater than its corresponding capital. As of 2018, the Greater Shanghai metropolitan area, which includes Suzhou, Wuxi, Nantong, Ningbo, Jiaxing, Zhoushan, and Huzhou, was estimated to produce a gross metropolitan product, nominal, of nearly 9.1 trillion Chinese yuan, $1.33 trillion. Shanghai has been one of the world's major centers for finance, business and economics, research, education, science and technology, manufacturing, tourism, culture, dining, art, fashion, sports, and transportation, and the Port of Shanghai is the world's busiest container port. In 2019, the Shanghai Pudong International Airport was one of the world's 10 busiest airports by passenger traffic, and one of the 2 international airports serving the Shanghai metropolitan area, the other one being the Shanghai Hongqiao International Airport. Originally a fishing village and market town, Shanghai grew in importance in the 19th century due to both domestic and foreign trade and its favorable port location. The city was one of 5 treaty ports forced to open to European trade after the First Opium War. The Shanghai International Settlement and the French Concession were subsequently established. The city then flourished, becoming a primary commercial and financial hub of Asia in the 1930s. During the Second Sino-Japanese War, the city was the site of the major Battle of Shanghai. After the war, with the communist takeover of the mainland in 1949, trade was limited to other socialist countries and the city's global influence declined. By the 1990s, economic reforms introduced by Deng Xiaoping a decade earlier resulted in an intense redevelopment of the city, especially the Pudong New area, aiding the return of finance and foreign investment. The city has since re-emerged as a hub for international trade and finance. It is the home of the Shanghai Stock Exchange, one of the largest stock exchanges in the world by market capitalization, and the Shanghai Free Trade Zone, the first free trade zone in mainland China. As of 2020, Shanghai is classified as an Alpha Plus, Global First Tier, city by the Globalization and World Cities Research Network and ranked as having the 3rd most competitive and largest financial center in the world behind New York City and London by the Global Financial Centers Index. It has the largest metro network of any city in the world, the 6th highest number of billionaires of any city in the world, the 5th largest number of skyscrapers of any city in the world, the 5th largest scientific research output of any city in the world, and highly ranked educational institutions including Fudan University, Shanghai Jiao Tong University, Tongji University, East China Normal University, Shanghai University, Shanghai University of Finance and Economics, and East China University of Science and Technology. Shanghai has been described as the showpiece of the booming economy of China. Featuring several architectural styles such as Art Deco and Shikumen, the city is renowned for its Lujiazhui skyline, museums and historic buildings including the City God Temple, Yu Garden, the China Pavilion and buildings along the Bund, which includes Oriental Pearl TV Tower. Shanghai is also known for its sugary cuisine, distinctive local language and vibrant international flair. As an important international city, Shanghai is the seat of the New Development Bank, a multilateral development bank established by the BRICS states, and the city hosts more than 70 foreign representatives and numerous national and international events every year, such as Shanghai Fashion Week, the Chinese Grand Prix and China Joy. Shanghai is the highest earning tourist city in the world, with the 7th most 5-star hotels in the world, and the 2nd tallest building in the world, the Shanghai Tower. In 2018, Shanghai hosted the first China International Import Expo, CIE, the world's first import-themed national-level expo. Etymology. The 2 Chinese characters in the city's name are, Shang/Zan, upon, and, Hai/He, sea, together meaning on the sea. The earliest occurrence of this name dates from the 11th century Song dynasty, when there was already a river confluence and a town with this name in the area. How the name should be understood has been disputed, but Chinese historians have concluded that during the Tang dynasty, The area of modern-day Shanghai was under the sea level, so the land appeared to be literally on the sea. Shanghai is officially abbreviated, Hu/Vu2, in Chinese, a contraction of, Hudu/Vudo, Harpoon Ditch, a 4th or 5th century Jin name for the mouth of Suzhou Creek when it was the main conduit into the ocean. This character appears on all motor vehicle license plates issued in the municipality today. Alternative names: Shen, or Xinchang, Xin City, was an early name originating from Lord Chuncheon, a 3rd century BC nobleman and prime minister of the state of Chu, whose fief included modern Shanghai. Shanghai-based sports teams and newspapers often use Xin in their names, such as Shanghai Shenhua and Shenbao. Huiting was another early name for Shanghai. In AD 751 during the Mid-Tang dynasty, Huiting County was established by Zhao, the governor of Wu Commandery, at modern-day Sonjong, the first county-level administration within modern-day Shanghai. The first 5-star hotel in the city was named after Huiting. Modu, Magical City, a contemporary nickname for Shanghai, is widely known among the youth. The name was first mentioned in Shofu Muramatsu's 1924 novel Motto, which portrayed Shanghai as a dichotomic city where both light and darkness existed. The city has various nicknames in English, including Pearl of the Orient and Paris of the East. This is similar to Ho Chi Minh City, also known as Saigon, in Vietnam, which has also been nicknamed as Paris of the Orient, due to Vietnam's historical French status. History? Ancient history. The western part of modern-day Shanghai was inhabited 6,000 years ago. During the spring and autumn period, approximately 771 to 476 BC, it belonged to the Kingdom of Wu, which was conquered by the Kingdom of Yue, which in turn was conquered by the Kingdom of Chu. During the Warring States period, 475 BC, Shanghai was part of the fief of Lord Chuncheon of Chu, one of the 4 lords of the Warring States. He ordered the excavation of the Huangpu River. Its former or poetic name, the Chuncheon River, gave Shanghai its nickname of Xin. Fishermen living in the Shanghai area then created a fish tool called the Hu, which lent its name to the outlet of Suzhou Creek north of the Old City and became a common nickname and abbreviation for the city. Imperial history. Sonjong Square Pagoda, built in the 11th century. During the Tang and Song dynasties, Qinglong Town, in modern Huangpu district was a major trading port. Established in 746, the 5th year of the Tang Qinbao era, it developed into what historically called a giant town of the southeast, with 13 temples and 7 pagodas. Mi Fu, a scholar and artist of the Song dynasty, served as its mayor. The port experienced thriving trade with provinces along the Yangtze and the Chinese coast, as well as with foreign countries such as Japan and Sheila. The Mahavra Hall at Zinro Temple, built in 1320. The walled old city of Shanghai in the 17th century. By the end of the Song dynasty, the center of trading had moved downstream of the Wusong River to Shanghai. It was upgraded in status from a village to a market town in 1074, and in 1172, a second sea wall was built to stabilize the ocean coastline, supplementing an earlier dike. From the Yuan dynasty in 1292 until Shanghai officially became a municipality in 1927, central Shanghai was administered as a county under Sonjong Prefecture, which had its seat in the present-day Songjong district. 2 important events helped promote Shanghai's developments in the Ming dynasty. A city wall was built for the first time in 1554 to protect the town from raids by Japanese pirates. It measured 10 meters, 33 feet, high and 5 kilometers, 3 miles, in circumference. A city god temple was built in 1602 during the Wanli reign. This honor was usually reserved for prefectural capitals and not normally given to a mere county seat such as Shanghai. Scholars have theorized that this likely reflected the town's economic importance, as opposed to its low political status. During the Qing dynasty, Shanghai became one of the most important seaports in the Yangtze Delta region as a result of 2 important central government policy changes. In 1684, the Kangxi Emperor reversed the Ming dynasty prohibition on ocean-going vessels, a ban that had been in force since 1525, and in 1732, the Qianlong Emperor moved the customs office for Jiangsu Province, Sea Customs House, Shanghai, from the prefectural capital of Sonjong to Shanghai, and gave Shanghai exclusive control over customs collections for Jiangsu's foreign trade. As a result of these two critical decisions, Shanghai became the major trade port for all of the lower Yangtze region by 1735, despite still being at the lowest administrative level in the political hierarchy. Rise and Golden Age. A map of Shanghai in 1884, Chinese area are in yellow, French in red, British in blue, American in orange. In the 19th century, international attention to Shanghai grew due to European recognition of its economic and trade potential at the Yangtze. During the First Opium War, 1839 to 1842, British forces occupied the city. The war ended in 1842 with the Treaty of Nanking, which opened Shanghai as one of the 5 treaty ports for international trade. The Treaty of the Bogue, the Treaty of Wangjia, and the Treaty of Whampoa, signed in 1843, 1844, and 1844, respectively, forced Chinese concession to European and American desires for visitation and trade on Chinese soil. Britain, France, and the United States all established a presence outside the walled city of Shanghai, which remained under the direct administration of the Chinese. The Chinese-held Old City of Shanghai fell to rebels from the Small Sword Society in 1853, but was recovered by the Qing government in February 1855. In 1854, the Shanghai Municipal Council was created to manage the foreign settlements. Between 1860 and 1862, the Taiping rebels twice attacked Shanghai and destroyed the city's eastern and southern suburbs, but failed to take the city. In 1863, the British settlement to the south of Suzhou Creek, northern Huangpu District, and the American settlement to the north, southern Hongqiao District, joined in order to form the Shanghai International Settlement. The French opted out of the Shanghai Municipal Council and maintained its own concession to the south and southwest. The dismantlement of Old City Walls, 1911. The First Sino-Japanese War concluded with the 1895 Treaty of Shimonoseki, which elevated Japan to become another foreign power in Shanghai. Japan built the first factories in Shanghai, which was soon copied by other foreign powers. All this international activity gave Shanghai the nickname the Great Athens of China. In 1914, the old city walls were dismantled because they blocked the city's expansion. In July 1921, the Communist Party of China was founded in the French concession. On May 30, 1925, the May 30th movement broke out when a worker in a Japanese-owned cotton mill was shot and killed by a Japanese foreman. Workers in the city then launched general strikes against imperialism, which became nationwide protests that gave rise to Chinese nationalism. The Golden Age of Shanghai began with its elevation to municipality after it was separated from Jiangsu on July 7, 1927. This new Chinese municipality covered an area of 494.69 square kilometers, 191.0 square miles, including the modern-day districts of Baoshan, Yangpu, Jiabei, Nanxi, and Pudong, but excluded the foreign concessions territories. Headed by a Chinese mayor and municipal council, the new city government's first task, the Greater Shanghai Plan, was to create a new city center in Jiangwan town of Yangpu district, outside the boundaries of the foreign concessions. The plan included a public museum, library, sports stadium, and city hall, which were partially constructed before being interrupted by the Japanese invasion. The city flourished, becoming a primary commercial and financial hub of the Asia-Pacific region in the 1930s. During the ensuing decades, citizens of many countries and all continents came to Shanghai to live and work. Those who stayed for long periods, some for generations, called themselves Shanghailanders. In the 1920s and 1930s, almost 20,000 White Russians fled the newly established Soviet Union to reside in Shanghai. These Shanghai Russians constituted the second largest foreign community. By 1932, Shanghai had become the world's fifth largest city and home to 70,000 foreigners. In the 1930s, some 30,000 Jewish refugees from Europe arrived in the city. Japanese invasion. Jiabei District on fire, 1937. Jewish refugee students in Shanghai. On January 28, 1932, Japanese forces invaded Shanghai while the Chinese resisted. More than 10,000 shops and hundreds of factories and public buildings were destroyed, leaving Jiabei District ruined. About 18,000 civilians were either killed, injured, or declared missing. A ceasefire was brokered on 5th of May. In 1937, the Battle of Shanghai resulted in the occupation of the Chinese-administered parts of Shanghai outside of the international settlement and the French concession. People who stayed in the occupied city suffered on a daily basis, experiencing hunger, oppression, or death. The foreign concessions were ultimately occupied by the Japanese on December 8, 1941 and remained occupied until Japan's surrender in 1945. Multiple war crimes were committed during that time. A side effect of the Japanese invasion of Shanghai was the Shanghai Ghetto. Japanese consul to Kaunas, Lithuania, Chiune Sugihara issued thousands of visas to Jewish refugees who were escaping the Nazis' final solution to the Jewish question. They traveled from Kievan, Lithuania across Russia by railroad to the Vladivostok, from where they traveled by ship to Kobe, Japan. However, the Jewish refugee stay in Kobe was short as the Japanese government transferred them to Shanghai by November 1941. Other Jewish refugees found haven in Shanghai, not through Sugihara, but came on ships from Italy. The refugees from Europe were interned into a cramped ghetto in the Hongqiao district, and after the Japanese attack on Pearl Harbor, even the Iraqi Jews who had been living in Shanghai from before the outbreak of World War II were interned. Among the refugees in the Shanghai ghetto was the Mira Yeshiva, including its students and faculty. On September 3, 1945, the Chinese army liberated the ghetto and most of the Jews left over the next few years. By 1957, there were only 100 Jews remaining in Shanghai. On May 27, 1949, the People's Liberation Army took control of Shanghai through the Shanghai Campaign. Under the new People's Republic of China, PRC, Shanghai was one of only 3 municipalities not merged into neighboring provinces, the others being Beijing and Tianjin. Most foreign firms moved their offices from Shanghai to Hong Kong, as part of a foreign divestment due to the PRC's victory. Modern history. Nanjing Road, 1967. During the Cultural Revolution. After the war, Shanghai's economy was restored. From 1949 to 1952, the city's agricultural and industrial output increased by 51.5% and 94.2%, respectively. There were 20 urban districts and 10 suburbs at the time. On January 17, 1958, Jiaxing, Baoshan, and Shanghai County in Jiangsu became part of Shanghai Municipality, which expanded to 863 square kilometers, 333.2 square miles. The following December, the land area of Shanghai was further expanded to 5,910 square kilometers, 2,281.9 square miles, after more surrounding suburban areas in Jiangsu were added: Chongming, Jinshan, Huangpu, Fengshan, Chuansha, and Nanhai. In 1964, the city's administrative divisions were rearranged to 10 urban districts and 10 counties. As the industrial center of China with the most skilled industrial workers, Shanghai became a center for radical leftism during the 1950s and 1960s. The radical leftist Jiang Qing and her 3 allies, together the Gang of Four, were based in the city. During the Cultural Revolution, 1966 to 1976, Shanghai's society was severely damaged, with 310,000 wrongful convictions involving more than 1 million people. About 11,500 people were unjustly persecuted to death. Yet, even during the most tumultuous times of the revolution, Shanghai was able to maintain economic production with positive annual growth rate. The Shanghai People's Commune was established in the city during the January storm of 1967. Since 1949, Shanghai has been a comparatively heavy contributor of tax revenue to the central government. In 1983, the city's contribution in tax revenue was greater than investment received in the past 33 years combined. Its importance to the fiscal well-being of the central government also denied it from economic liberalizations begun in 1978. In 1990, Deng Xiaoping finally permitted Shanghai to initiate economic reforms, which reintroduced foreign capital to the city and developed the Pudong district, resulting in the birth of Lujiazhui. As of 2020, Shanghai is classified as an Alpha Plus city by the Globalization and World Cities Research Network, making it one of the world's top 10 major cities. Geography. The urban area of Shanghai in 2016, along with its major islands. From northwest to southeast, Chongming, Jiaxing, Hongqiao, and the Jiuduansha shoals off Pudong. The Yangtze's natural sediment discharge can be seen. population density and low elevation coastal zones in the Shanghai area. Shanghai is particularly vulnerable to sea level rise. Shanghai is located on the Yangtze estuary of China's east coast, with the Yangtze River to the north and Hangzhou Bay to the south, with the East China Sea to the east. The land is formed by the Yangtze's natural deposition and modern land reclamation projects. As such, it has sandy soil, and skyscrapers have to be built with deep concrete piles to avoid sinking into the soft ground. The provincial-level municipality of Shanghai administers both the estuary and many of its surrounding islands. It borders the provinces of Zhejiang to the south and Jiangsu to the west and north. The municipality's northernmost point is on Chongming Island, which is the second largest island in mainland China after its expansion during the 20th century. It does not administratively include an exclave of Jiangsu on northern Chongming or the two islands forming Shanghai's Zhoushan port, which are parts of Zhejiang's Jingxi County. Shanghai is roughly 1,100 kilometers equidistant from Beijing to the northwest and 1,400 kilometers from Guangzhou to the southeast. Shanghai is located on an alluvial plain. As such, the vast majority of its 6,340.5 square kilometers, 2,448.1 square miles, land area is flat, with an average elevation of 4 meters, 13 feet. Tidal flat ecosystems exist around the estuary, however, they have long been reclaimed for agricultural purposes. The city's few hills, such as Zhoushan, lie to the southwest, and its highest point is the peak of Jiaxing Island, 103 meters or 338 feet, in Hangzhou Bay. Shanghai has many rivers, canals, streams, and lakes, and it is known for its rich water resources as part of the Lake Tai drainage basin. Downtown Shanghai is bisected by the Huangpu River, a man-made tributary of the Yangtze created by order of Lord Chunchen during the Warring States period. The historic center of the city was located on the west bank of the Huangpu, Wuxi, near the mouth of Suzhou Creek, connecting it with Lake Tai and the Grand Canal. The Central Financial District, Lujiazhui, has been established on the east bank of the Huangpu, Pudong. Along Shanghai's eastern shore, the destruction of local wetlands due to the construction of Pudong International Airport has been partially offset by the protection and expansion of a nearby shoal, Zhoushan, as a nature preserve. Climate? Shanghai has a humid subtropical climate, CFA, with an average annual temperature of 15.8 degrees Celsius, 60.4 degrees Fahrenheit, for urban districts and 15.2 to 15.7 degrees Celsius, 59.4 to 60.3 degrees Fahrenheit, for suburbs. The city experiences 4 distinct seasons. Winters are temperate to cold and damp, northwesterly winds from Siberia can cause nighttime temperatures to drop below freezing. Each year, there are an average of 6.2 days with snowfall and 2.8 days with snow cover. Summers are hot and humid, and occasional downpours or freak thunderstorms can be expected. On average, 8.7 days exceed 35 degrees Celsius, 95 degrees Fahrenheit, annually. In summer and the beginning of autumn, the city is susceptible to typhoons. The most pleasant seasons are generally spring, although changeable and often rainy, and autumn, which is usually sunny and dry. With monthly percent possible sunshine ranging from 34% in March to 54% in August, the city receives 1,895 hours of bright sunshine annually. Extremes since 1951 have ranged from -10.1 degrees Celsius, 14 degrees Fahrenheit, on January 31, 1977, unofficial record of -12.1 degrees Celsius, 10 degrees Fahrenheit, was set on January 19, 1893, to 40.9 degrees Celsius, 106 degrees Fahrenheit, on July 21, 2017 at a weather station in Suzhou.